Hi, in this video we discussed about laptop chip shootout M2 Pro versus Intel 13th generation Core i9. For the first time, Apple and Intel launched the latest mobile processor in the same month. We analyze which one would win in a street fight. January 2023 was an exciting month for the tech community in general. Intel launched their new 13th generation Core processor, which is expected. And unexpectedly Apple dropped their next generation professional mobile Apple Silicon, the M2 Pro and M2 Max. Granted, based on analysis, the M2 Pro and M2 Max were scheduled to be released in late 2022, but for various reasons, Apple delayed such a move. Now, we are at the start of 2023. We have in our hands a brand new generation of mobile chips. Intel proclaims that the 13th generation Core processors are the most powerful mobile processor ever made. In contrast, Apple claims to be best in class for mobile computing. Which one is right? Apple M2 Pro. Just like the M2 Pro improvements of the first generation of Apple Silicon. Apple took what was good and what was lacking in the M1 Pro and M1 Max and improved every facet of the chip. M2 Pro and M2 Max has 12 cores, 8 performance and 4 efficiency cores. More GPU cores. The M2 Pro added 3 more GPU cores to make it 19 and the M2 Max now has 38 cores instead 32. The starting cores for the M2 Pro are also higher at 16 GPU cores instead of 14 in the M1 Pro. It's faster. Just like the M2, Apple did not move the M2 Pro and M2 Max into a new manufacturing process, which is a trick to make chips faster. However, they did mention that they improved the performance of the chip by at least 18%. Higher memory support. While the M2 Pro still supports up to 32 GB of memory, the M2 Max is bumped to 96 GB of memory. The M2 Pro and M2 Max have a media engine to do ProRes file processing. The M2 Max has twice the number of media engines. Improved media engine. The media engine also improved to manage more 8K ProRes streams in Final Cut Pro, at least 10 in the M2 Max. Improved display engine. One of the gripe of the first generation Apple Silicon Max is that they cannot handle an 8K display. Apple heard your cries and responded in kind. The HDMI 2.1 port now supports up to 8K at 60 Hz or 4K at 120 Hz. M2 Pro. Do notice that in the M1 Pro, there are only 2 memory modules attached to the chip. For the M2 Pro, there is now 4 memory modules which imply more memory channels. M2 Max size comparison between M2 and M1 Max. Intel i9. Intel's entire business strategy is to make and sell the fastest processor day in and day out. It was a rough couple of years and one could argue Intel is back in the game. However, the caveat is performance by any means necessary, including pushing the power consumption at unmobile levels. Since Generation 12, the new HX series provides higher performance albeit with higher power consumption. HX series. Since the 12th generation, Intel has introduced a new series that is supposed to be the pinnacle of their line, the HX series. The HX series is the pinnacle of Intel's mobile platform. With up to 24 cores, 128 GB memory support, and Wi-Fi 6E, this mobile chip packs a punch. Huge memory support. With 128 GB memory support, this processor is basically a workstation-class processor just a few years ago. However, implementation is dependent on PC vendors. Intel claims that the Intel i9-13980HX is far performant than whatever Apple throws at. Power hungry. The CPU requires at least 45 W to work, 55 to be optimal, and can jack up to 157 W in beast mode. With the maximum battery size set at 100 Wh by the FAA, how long do you think the CPU can last in battery mode? The 13th generation Intel Core can support Wi-Fi 6E, dual-band Wi-Fi for faster connection and low-power Bluetooth. Performance. Since it was announced, there was rife speculation of the performance of the M2 Pro/Max chip compared to Intel's latest. Now as reviews about new MacBook Pros which runs these chips are out, we are beginning to see more concrete results. In summary, yes, the Intel are indeed fastest, but using 4 times the power to do so. Intel claimed that the 13th generation Core i9-13980HX are the fastest mobile processor in the world right now. So far, based on leaked results, Intel has backed up the claim, but do note that Intel is using the word mobile very loosely right now. While benchmark after benchmark will show that the Intel i9-13980HX will slay the Apple M2 Max in every measurable metric, things do change when they are on battery power. After all, both the M2 Max and the Intel i9-13980HX are supposed to be mobile computing chips that are intended to be put inside laptops. The interesting thing when you have competition in the market is not only the vibrancy of things, but the differences in approach of each player trying to solve the same problem. Apple set hard boundaries in the power consumption and aimed to get as much performance squeezed from said boundary. Intel on the other hand aims to get as much performance at any means whatsoever. Which would be a better solution? It depends on the customer, of course. After all, in matters of taste, the customer is always right.